8, what we are doing is we're solving an equation again, okay? We're going to work more on solving equations. This is called solving two-step problems. So they're equations like this. 3x plus 4 equals 10. Or it could be x over 7 minus 5 equals -2. Okay, those are equations that we're looking at solving. Okay, again, remember what's our goal. When we're solving equations, we want to find the value of x that makes the equation true. That's what we're actually doing. We're trying to find what would x have to be so that this is a true statement. Some of you might be able to look at that first one and tell me, what does x have to be? To make that a true statement, what would x have to be? Just looking at that problem. Can somebody tell me what it would be? Yes.
3.
Not quite 3. Because 3 times 3 would give us, you were doing 3 plus, which is close. So what would it be instead?
1.
Well, 3 times 1 would be 3 plus 4. Is that 10?
Oh.
Okay, yes.
2.
2. So our guess, which is that x is going to be 2. Okay, now let's see why that's true. 3 times 2 plus 4 equals 10. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 4 equals 10. 10 equals 10. Yes, that does make it true. But what if we didn't guess it? What if we guessed something wrong? Okay, and we want to find out how to get it. So our goal still, we're going to try to get to by manipulating these numbers. Okay, so this is a process. What we're trying to do, show you, is a process that you use to find the value of x. Okay, so in this process, what we're going to do is we want to think opposites. Okay, opposite numbers and opposite order of operations. Okay, normally we do order of operations. Remember, if you're doing it, you do parentheses first. Then you do exponents if you have exponents. We don't have any exponents right now, but this is the order of operations. Then we do multiplication and division from left to right. Those are actually done at the same time. Okay. And then we do addition and subtraction. Those are also done at the same time, left to right. Okay. So that's PEMDAS. You hear PEMDAS used over and over again for the acronym. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the opposite order. And that's, let's see, SADMEP. If I flip those around backwards, I get SADMEP. We're going to use that order. Now, again, you're going to do subtraction, addition first when you're undoing it. Then you're going to use division and multiplication. We are not going to get to these right now. We're going to concentrate on these two at this point. Okay? So we're going to do the reverse order. We're going to do our addition and subtraction first. And we're going to do the multiplication and division after that when we're undoing the equation. When we are trying to get x by itself. Because when we get x by itself, then we know what x is. Okay? So here's my equation. 3x plus 4 equals 10. So we look for any addition or subtraction. What do you see by x that's either added or subtracted? Looking at that equation, what has been added or subtracted? Yeah, Brad?
3x plus 4.
Okay, what's been added?
6 plus 4.
No, what's been added in this equation? Yes.
2.
No. Don't make it more difficult. What has been added to x that we're trying to undo? Yes.
3 plus 4.
It's not 3 plus 4. It's
Four.
just 4. The only thing that's been added to x, we look for what's been added first. We want to get rid of it on this side. In other words, we want to make it 0. So if I have positive 4, what do I do to make it 0? Negative 4. You add the opposite, which is negative 4. So if I do that on that side, I do the same thing over here. So step 1 is to subtract 4 from both sides. Now, one thing on you people that don't like to show work, right? You can write subtract 4 from both sides and then do that, and that's showing work because you've explained what you're doing, okay? So what happens is this makes a 0. So what I have really is 3x plus 0 equals 6. But we don't have to write plus 0 because we don't usually write plus 0. We're lazy. We don't want to write more than we have to. And if I take any number and add 0 to it, it is the same number. So we don't have to. So this is the same as 3x equals 0. You do not have to write this one. This is optional. You do not have to write that part down because 3x plus 0 is the same as 3x. I'm okay with you not writing that down. Okay. Now I have a 3 with the x. What is the operation between the 3 and the x? Yes.
Multiplication.
It's multiplication. Remember, our next step is going to be multiplication or division. We have multiplication. So what is the opposite of multiplying? Ezekiel, what's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So we are going to make this a 1. We want the 1. We want a 1 in front of x. So I'm going to divide this by 3. And I'm going to divide this by 3 because I want 1 in front of x. So we do the opposite with the number that's by x. We're trying to get all the numbers away from x. We're stripping them away from x so that we can get x all by itself because that was our goal. So now I'm dividing. This is step 2. Is we're dividing both sides by 3. Okay? So we get 1x equals 6 divided by 3 is 2. There is my answer. 1x is 2, which really is the same as x is 2, which is that not the exact same answer we got up here. Okay? You can check your answer. When you find out what x is, put it back in the equation and make sure it's true. So if you get an answer, you should be able to check your answer. I would go back and say, okay, 3 times 2 plus 4 equals 10. 6 plus 4 equals 10. 10 equals 10. Check. That means this answer is correct because it made the equation true. So if you've done the work correctly, your equation will turn out to be true. Okay. So that was the steps using something we could see the answer on. I'm not sure you can see the answer as clearly on the next problem. Okay, so we're going to use that same process on another problem. Okay, here we go. X divided by 7 minus 5 equals negative 2. So we are looking on the side with x. We want to get rid of the numbers that are with x. What two numbers are with x right now? Jonathan, what two numbers are with x on that side right now?
5 and 2. Negative.
Same side of the equation. Here's my equation.
Oh,
So what two numbers are over with
negative
x?
5 and 7.
Negative 5 and 7. Okay? So we have two numbers we're going to get rid of. Okay? We're going to look at the subtraction part first because we're going to undo that part first. So what am I subtracting right now? Yes.
We're not taking away the 5.
I need to get rid of the negative 5. Okay? How do I get rid of a negative 5? How do I get rid of that?
Positive 5.
A positive 5. So we are going to add 5 on both sides. Okay? So we could say add 5 on both sides. Okay, that's our first step because we always undo the subtraction and addition first. Okay. Now, that gives me x over 7 because these cancel, giving me 0. I like to go like that to show that they cancel. So that gives me x over 7 equals, what is negative 2 plus 5? Peyton, what's negative 2 plus 5? That's correct. That is 3. Okay, so we have to do the work on that side. Now, what is next? Lil, what am I getting rid of next?
The 7.
The 7, okay? And what are we doing with between the x and 7 right now? What is that operation? Peyton, I'm picking on you right now, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the operation between x and 7?
Then
Division. Okay, what's the opposite of that, Marcy?
multiplication.
Okay, so that means I'm going to multiply both sides by 7 because we're doing the opposite of this, division by 7. We're going to multiply by 7, which, if you remember, 7 over 1 is how I would multiply that. Times 7 over here, so I'm doing it on both sides. But this just cancels, right? To 1 over 1, which is what I wanted. 1x. Yes, that's what I want. Now I have to do the multiplication here, which is 21. So it tells me that x is 21. We can check our answer. We don't have to say, do I think I did that right? We can actually make sure I did it right by going back into the original equation and checking it. So I'm going to put 21 in for x. Whoops, I didn't write what we did next. We multiplied, sorry, I didn't write this down, both sides by 7. Now we're checking. This is the check. Check. So I know that x is 21, so I'm going to say 21 over 7 minus 5 equals negative 2. If this is correct, it will make that equation true. Okay, yes?
See how there's the 5, the negative 5 right there? It's the same as subtract 5, right?
Yes, negative 5 is the same as subtract 5. Okay, those are interchangeable now, which kind of gets confusing because we just introduced that concept of negative. But when I have a minus, it's really adding the opposite, so it's adding a negative. Okay, so it's the same
Could
thing.
you just do 5 minus 2 times 3 times 7?
5 minus 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to see why you're doing that. Okay, you need to know why you're doing that. Okay, and I want to see step by step at least the directions here because I want you to make sure you're doing it correctly. Okay, so don't try to jump and look for patterns. Look for what it's doing and check that. Okay, so on this one, 21 divided by 7 is 3. 3 minus 5 is what we have is 3 minus 5 equal to -2?
Yeah.
That's -2 equals -2. Check. I know that that answer I just got is correct because when I put it back in, it made the equation true. So you can check every answer you get because of that. Okay, you can check every answer you get. Okay, we're going to try a couple more. So has everybody got that copied down? You guys should be taking notes. Didn't I say this is a really important time to take notes? So Ezekiel, are you taking some notes? Okay. Branson, are you taking notes? Okay. Thing that's important here is to write down these steps because you can refer to them later. That's the whole idea behind taking notes. I know you guys are not familiar with taking notes a lot. It's something that you need to learn. Okay, so I'm going to give you some more problems. Okay, we are going to start again. Our whole goal is to get x by itself, to find out what x is that makes the equation true. What value does x take to make the equation true? I'm going to show you something else. Okay. This one's a little bit different because if you notice, it has parentheses, doesn't it? Okay, does everybody see that it has parentheses?
Mm-hmm.
We normally do parentheses first. So when we undo it, we are going to do parentheses last. So we're not going to worry about what's inside the parentheses right now because we're going to do that last. Okay, so that's the important thing here, looking at the order of operations. You want to do parentheses after multiplication or subtraction, okay? So, if I look at this problem, we're not going to worry ourselves with this inside the parentheses yet, because we're going to do that last. So, what is the number I need to get rid of first? Okay, what is it? Positive 10. What is the sign in between this 10 and this parenthesis? What am I doing there? Okay, multiplication. So what am I going to do to solve this? If this is multiplied by 10, what am I going to do to get rid of that? Divide by 10. So we're going to divide this by 10 because that makes 1 there. Divide this by 10, it just happens to make that. This gives me 1, so that really means I just have x minus 7 here equals -10 divided by positive 10, which is what, Marcy? -10 divided by positive 10. Not quite. Think about division. Lil, do you know what that one is? -10 divided by 10? Okay. Okay. Branson.
It's x -6.
I'm not there yet. We're not jumping ahead. Right now I'm asking what is -10 divided by positive 10? What kind of 1 is it? It's a -1 because a negative divided by a positive is going to have a negative answer. And 10 divided by 10 is just 1. So this is going to be -1. Okay. Now we're ready to do inside the parentheses because that's all we have left. Okay. So we divide each side by 10. Now remove parentheses to finish the problem because we keep this, we remove those parentheses as part of our last step. Okay, so when I remove the parentheses, what I get is x minus 7 equals -1. So because those parentheses were there, we wanted to wait to do inside them until after we got rid of the 10. Because parentheses usually come first, so we are going to do them last. So now, what am I going to do? I have x minus 7. I want to get x by itself, so what am I going to remove, and how am I going to remove it? Okay? Yes, Hayden.
You would divide it by positive 7 and you would get a
Would I divide it? So let's think about, what is this sign here? It's a what kind of sign is that? Ezekiel, that is x what 7?
X minus.
Minus 7. What is minus 7? It's a subtraction, right? How do I get rid of a subtraction? We do the opposite, so what are we going to do?
plus.
We're going to plus it. So we're not dividing, because this is, we're going to add 7, because the opposite of subtracting is adding 7 to both sides. So that gets rid of that. X is now equal to negative 1 plus 7, which is 6. Okay. Now, if you look at that, we can check this answer. We want to check it, so we're going to go up here and check it. It was 10 times x minus 7 equals negative 10. Okay. We just found that x was 6, so where x is, we're going to put a 6. So we're putting the 6 in, we get 10 times 6 minus 7 equals negative 10. Again, remember, to solve this, we do it in order of operations. We're going to do inside the parentheses first, because we're simplifying it. We're not undoing now. We are just going forward, so we use this order of operations. So we do inside the parentheses. 6 minus 7 is negative 1. So we get 10 times negative 1 equals negative 10. And 10 times negative 1 is what, Jonathan?
10.
Yes, negative 10. Okay. Negative 10 equals negative 10. Is that correct? Did it check? Does negative 10 equal negative 10? Okay, so that does check. Okay. So again, you are doing opposites. You do the opposite order of operations, and you do opposite, which is actually called inverse, operations. Okay, so you use opposites. When you're trying to get x by itself, we do opposite order of operations, and we do opposite operations. And then you can solve. So I'm going to give you one, and all of you are going to solve it right now. Okay, so right now on your paper, I want to see that problem written down, and I want you to take and do the 2 steps. What would you do first? You can talk amongst yourselves and help each other. What would you do first? Remember, we do it on both sides of the equation. This cancels, so don't write -5 and -10. Practice the
Well,
integers.
then negative and negative, so if you
That's
cancel.
when we multiply and
I
divide.
didn't do the
What'd you get? So we
negative,
understand.
cancel
Where's your problem?
negative by 4.
Write it down so you can show the work.
What's negative
Show me the
5
step.
divided by 4?
What would it be? -5? Why are you dividing -5 by 4? Oh, wait, what is the first thing you're going to do first? Now, what's the, remember you're doing the opposite of adding or
Take away
subtracting.
10.
Take away 10 on both sides first.
Just
That is correct. You're right. We can't reduce it.
My brain doesn't like this.
Oh!
I like that. So
That's cool.
minus
Okay.
10.
Right? Yes, again.
You can leave it as an
So it's
improper
like an
fraction.
So I cancel out 10 minus 10.
Right, is it -15 over 4 a fraction?
And then it's negative.
It's an improper
Wait, no,
fraction.
it's 5.
Can I reduce
Five.
-15 over 4?
No.
Why not? Because 3 and 5 going to 15. 2
2
and 2
negatives
going to 4.
equal.
Now leave it as an improper fraction.
So the answer is negative.
Yes.
It's minus.
Now you can, no, it's not 4x equals that. You have to
Negative
divide
10
the
minus
4x
10
by
is
4.
equal.
Remember, so you get 1x.
Because they're both negatives.
It's like adding 2 multiples, but they're both negative.
So negative 15.
Correct.
My mathing isn't mathing.
Negative 15.
I do know.
So x equals negative 15.
Yeah.
What
Wait,
is
no,
negative?
no, because you still have
4x. You got the 4 still, so 4x equals negative. Bring your 4 down. Bring your 4 down.
So 4.
You want me to check it?
Yes, you should.
No.
Always should check.
Negative 1.
How you doing? What'd you do first?
So we still got the
That's
4
right,
and
but
negative.
that's not right. So
Negative
-5.
15.
Are we dividing here?
Shut up.
This is
No.
not the opposite operation of adding 10.
Equals negative 15.
No,
Okay.
The 1 goes away and it's just x. Oh, it's x.
Then
Trying
you
to
divide.
divide
Then you do the 4 thing.
-5 minus. That's not one.
So leave,
Okay,
right?
so subtract.
Okay, so
Okay.
negative 15 on 4. Or 1
You
x.
divide negative 15 by 4.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
you do. That is correct.
Now you do that.
Now,
Let's
can you reduce negative 15 over 4?
right. Forward.
Can you?
Right. Let's give it a 10. Right.
You know that
Are there
you're
numbers,
smart.
are there numbers that go into both 15 and no, so that's as simple as you can make it. So negative 15 fourths is your improper fraction. Leave it as improper.
X equals negative 15.
Yes.
Do we have to make sure?
Check it? You should. I'm not going to ask you to right at the moment. We'll come back to that. Okay. I'm going to show you that in a second.
Is x 3 and 3/4?
It's -3 and 3.
Or yeah, negative 3 and 3/4.
Yes, or -15 fourths. Okay. I want to look through this again because what I'm seeing is people are not. When you do this, I'm going to show you a method that always works to help you keep your stuff straight. Okay. So I want all of you to watch this and write it down as we go through. Okay. You guys want to jump steps. I'm just telling you that it will be easier if you don't jump steps. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to basically, when you're looking at this, make this little thing down there like that. You don't have to make it real long, okay? We're putting a line here. So this is my first step. This is step 1. Okay? I have to do whatever I do over here, I have to do over here. Or whatever I do here, I have to do here. Because you have to do it on both sides of the equation. Okay. Are we writing this down? Everybody get this down. I want you to write this down with me because I want you to show work like this. I'm going to be very strict on it because you will be more successful if you follow these steps. So just letting you do it as you want is not going to work right now because you need to practice this. It's like getting multiplication tables down. It will make your life easier we know them. It's like learning how to add and subtract. So we can do that really quickly in our heads because that are basic things that you need to know for math. And you use addition and subtraction, multiplication, division all the time in the real world. So you should know how to do those. You shouldn't have to pull out your phone. You shouldn't have to pull out a calculator. You should be able to do them. Okay? Because what happens if your phone quits or your calculator dies? No, you don't die, but you do have problems, okay? So, our first step here, we have a 4 times x, and we have an addition of 5, or 10, excuse me, an addition of 10. The first one we want to do is the addition or subtraction. So we're going to get rid of 10 first. We want to get rid of anything that's added or subtracted to x first, unless it's in parentheses. Okay? So here, to get rid of this, I would subtract 10, and I have to also subtract 10 here. Okay? Ezekiel, I want you to write this down so that you have it down. Branson, I want you to write this on your paper so you can look back at it and see how you need to show work. This is not optional right now, guys. I want you to write it down so you know how to write it when you're doing your work. I don't want shortcuts. I want stuff written down. Okay? Now what you're doing is, this is really an addition problem. We are doing this addition. We are coming down and saying, okay, what do I have left on this side? I took 10 away from 10. Those cancel. What I have left here that comes down is 4x. Because the 4x is still there. I have not taken it away. I've only taken away 10. Okay? On the other side, it's still equal because the equal sign comes down. I have -5 and -10. We are adding those. We are not dividing. We are just adding -5 and -10. That makes -15. Okay, so we subtracted 10. Okay, it's key to write what you're doing, because if you know you're subtracting or you're adding a -10, the same thing, you know how to get that answer. Okay. Branson, are we writing it down?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it there. I'd like to see it there. Okay, so write that all down. Just like I have it on the board. Just write it, copy it down. You have yours, I see. Okay. Now, the next step is I still want to get x by itself. I don't want the 4 because the 4 is next to the x. So we're going to do the opposite operation. This is multiplication. What is the opposite of multiplying? Yes.
Division.
Division. So we are going to divide. A fraction symbol is actually the same thing as a division symbol. That is a division symbol. We don't use divided by anymore with the line and the 2 dots. We actually use a fraction bar because fraction bars are the same as dividing. So step 2 is going to be to divide by 4. Can't do that. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually going to go through and do the division. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so this gives me just a 1x, which is what I wanted. I wanted x all by itself. Okay. Equals, this does not divide in evenly. 4 does not divide in evenly into -15. I can't reduce it because there is no number that divides into 15 or into 4 that's the same. So we can put our answer as -15 fourths because that is an improper fraction that is simplified. Okay, if you could do the division, you would. But now's your answer. So I want all of these problems as you are doing them. I want step 1 and what you do. Step 2 and what you do. Okay, so make sure you do that. Okay, we're going to practice one more before we go on a break. Again, write this on your paper. Do it because there's going to be one like it on the worksheet. And I want you to know how to do it. So write it down now as an example. Okay, so this is the problem. It is x minus 4 divided by 16 equals -1. And there's the problem. Now this is a little bit different because our order of operations here is a little bit different. Okay, so get that problem written on your paper, please. Everyone should write that problem on their paper.
We start with the positive
Okay,
4.
I'm not going to say what we're going to start with. Right now, all we're going to do is write the problem on our paper. How, if you look at this problem, how is this problem different than the one we just solved? What would you describe it as? How would you describe it? You want to say anything, Peyton?
It's got a fraction in there.
It does have a fraction, and before we didn't have a fraction under both of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this time, this number is under both the x and the -4. Does everybody notice that? The 16 is under both the x and the -4. That actually acts like a parentheses. Okay? So what that really says is that, because a fraction bar is another way of writing a parentheses. It means you do what's on top before you divide if you were doing this normally. Okay? So in this case, I don't want to do this first. I don't want to do the -4 first because it's in parentheses and parentheses comes last. Okay? So we want to get rid of the 16. Now, how can I get rid of the 16? Okay. Everybody look at it. Write down on your paper what you think we need to do. What would you say we are going to do for step 1? Write it down on your paper what you think it would be. What would you think step 1 would be? Step 1, and then write down what it would be. What would you do first? What do you do? Okay. What are you doing? Not quite. So think about what that is. What is the operation between the parentheses and 16?
Oh.
What would be the operation that undoes that? What did you write? What are you going to do? It doesn't tell me what you're going to do.
Figure out what's here.
Yeah, but that's not the first step. What's the first step to get this solved?
Figure out what needs to be here to equal -1.
Okay, but you're trying to do it that way. I want you to do it this way that we're doing here, okay? As you get bigger numbers, they're not gonna be as easy for you to find. You're doing it I can reason this out, but that doesn't always work. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so what is the first step we would do? Go ahead, Jonathan, what are we gonna do? Step 1 is to do what?
Times 16.
Multiply by 16. Okay, why are we multiplying by 16? Yes,
Because the opposite of division is multiplication.
okay. Between the parentheses and the 16 is a division sign. We want to do the opposite. We're going to multiply by 16. So what you can do is you can write it as 16 times x minus 4 over 16, because this is really 16 over 1. Do you notice how they cancel? Equals negative 1 times 16. Notice on both sides, I multiplied by 16. Here's the multiplication, here's the multiplication. So I'm showing that I'm multiplying both sides by 16. Okay. All I did was write, this is a fraction, because you have a fraction on the other side. Because some of you get confused if I don't write that fraction there. Okay. This one I don't have to write as a fraction because it's just negative 1 times 16. So now I can see that these cancel, okay, because 16 and 16 will reduce down to 1. Okay. So I'm going to go down below now and I'm going to rewrite what's left. I'm left with x minus 4 over 1, which is the same thing as x minus 4. Does everybody agree with that? If I take x minus 4, I can remove the parentheses now. Okay. If you don't like that, keep the parentheses there. We'll remove them in a minute. Equals negative 16, because negative 1 times 16 is negative 16. Getting this on your paper? Okay, get it on your paper. Okay, so that was doing that next step right there. We're doing that step. Okay. Now step 2 is we remove the parentheses. Okay. You don't need to write that part down, but if you want to, you can. You can say remove parentheses. Okay. Because you're getting rid of that now because we're undoing the parentheses. So what I have in this step now is x minus 4 equals negative 16. So I've got rid of the parentheses. Now I need to solve. Okay? So Branson, what am I going to do on both sides to solve this equation?
You're going to add 4 to negative 16.
Yep, the step number 3 is we're going to add 4. So on both sides of the equation, I'm going to add 4, add 4. This cancels, leaving me with x. Negative 16 plus 4. What is negative 16 times, or plus 4,
Negative 12.
Ezekiel?
Negative 12.
Thank you, Ezekiel. Okay, equals negative 12. We have x all by itself now. We know what x equals. It should equal negative 12. How can I check that to make sure that's right?
Put it
Put it in the x.
Put it in for x. So up here I can go in and I say negative 12 minus 4 divided by 16 equals negative 1. Negative 12 minus 4, we do up on top first because that's like a parenthesis.
It's negative 6.
It's negative 16 divided by 16 equals negative 1. 16 divided by 16 is 1. There's 1 negative, so the answer is going to be negative. So negative 1 equals negative 1. Check. Our answer was correct. Okay. Notice how this is following order of operations. We did it in the parentheses first. When we undo, we do the parentheses last. So you always go the opposite order. Okay. It's like, I hate to use this analogy, but it's like when you take off, so we're getting x by itself. When you put your shoes and socks on, the socks go on first, and then your shoes. But to take them off, you don't take the socks off first. It wouldn't work very well. You have to take the shoes off first, and then the socks. Okay, so that's kind of the whole idea of using the opposite order, is you're trying to take those away, so we're going backwards from what we normally would do. And that's what they're looking at there. Okay. Okay, time for a break. I'm going to check that you wrote down the things I asked you to write down, because that's an important part.
This is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. It's so beautiful.
Beautiful. I'm so glad they're beautiful.
It just
Yay.
looks cute, you know? It just looks cute.
They do look very beautiful. Good job. Good job. Good job there. I don't think Branson took many notes, even after I asked him to. Well water. Oh, yeah, I used stuff in the coffee
It's okay.
today. Sorry
I'll
about
fill it
that.
up for tomorrow. So what do you think of our crazy kids, Russell?
Oh, good experience so far.
Yeah. Bring you back to math
right.
lessons.
Yeah, well, he's looking at the book going, yeah, I remember this book.
Mm-hmm.
Give him I asked him exactly. Okay, made that. Those are one step. Oops. I got some in the book. I think we'll do the in the book first. Let me see, 8. Eight, 10. Oh, interesting. That would be an interesting one. Oh, I didn't give that one. That's good. 14, okay. 18 and 20. Okay, those are fractions working from 3. These are my one-step equation answers. Let's go into here. Okay, we're going to start doing these problems. You need to show your work, so I should be able to know what you did for each step. yeah, we're missing Wesley. This is for Wesley.
Show me the wall. Oh, man, another worksheet.
Yep.
Deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it. I like that. Deal with it. I can't find mine.
75 cents.
Where'd my pencil go? There it is. Okay, so this is for Wesley. This is for Gavin. And I'll give this to
Shows how much we work out. No, it doesn't. We're running from getting a bunch of food. She got Thanos snapped. Thanos snapped? Yes. It's when you get Thanos snapped and then you go just like, ooh, into dice. Yeah. How did you not do that? Just kidding. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Oh, thanks. Stop taking my food. I want Pringles. I love them. You may have a piece.
Ezekiel.
Did you hear that? No, I actually put Pringles all over. I'm sorry. Pringles on my phone. That was scary.
Okay, so I gave you a worksheet. You will notice there are problems like I did on the board on this worksheet. You are to show or tell, you are to say step 1, step 2, step 3, or you need to show it very clearly so I can see what you are doing on each step. Does that make sense? Oh, removing the parenthesis is really not a step, but I showed that just because for some people, we are taking that parenthesis away. Yes, you are correct, it's 2 steps, but it's really addition and division. All of these have those 2 concepts in there. Yes. What would it be? Yes. Is that true? 9 times 0 is -7, -7 equals -7. Yep.
Pringle. Number 1.
Yep.
We're going to take shit.
No, we're going to check. We're going to do the other side first, too.
2.
Oops, I guess I need to